Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Let's chant one round of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Japa with Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Ram, 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Ram, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam for all session. Let's memorize this week's shloka. We are going to learn Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 9. So the verses 8, 9, 10 and 11 of chapter 10 are called Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. That means entire Bhagavad Gita can be said in 4 shlokas. That is chapter 10, texts 8, 9, 10 and 11. We memorized text 8 last week. Does anyone know it by heart? The verse and translation, but at least the verse. Would you like to try? 10:8. Go ahead. Okay, just the verse.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita.
You want to try the translation? I am the source of
of
all
all
spiritual.
spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this,
Who perfectly
who
know this.
perfectly know this,
Engage.
engage in my devotional service with all their heart.
Engage in my devotional service and worship me
And
with all
worship me
their
with all
hearts.
their hearts.
Okay. Anyone else would like to try? Okay, then we'll just go to today's verse. So the next verse is text 9. Please repeat after me. Macchitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Madhava, if you are not reciting, you won't be able to recite clearly. Please repeat. Macchitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. One more time. Macchitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Okay, so does anyone need to go first? Well, it's just your turn. So Achinta Dev Prabhu, you can go first.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please repeat, Prabhuji. Macchitta madgata prana
Matchitta matgata prana
bodhayantah parasparam
bodhayanta parasparam
kathayantascha mam nityam
kathayantas chamam nityam
kathayantascha mam nityam
kathayantascha mam nityam
tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Yes.
Translation. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted in my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Aditi Lata Mataji and Arunita.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Magchitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Arunita, great. 1 second.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Macchitta madgatam prana bodhayanta
Parasparam.
parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha
Ramanti cha.
ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always engaging, enlightening one another and conversing about me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Achyut Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Guru Maharaj.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Glorious to the assembled devotees. Krishna. Machitta matgata prana bodhayanta parasparam tatayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Translation by Panjan Rai. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted in my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Did,
Mataji.
did you get my message, Mataji? Which I said.
No Mataji.
My mother-in-law is little quite serious, Mataji. Her breathing is reduced. So kindly pray for her, Mataji.
Sure Mataji. Yeah, we just chanted one round of japa, so we will continue. We'll keep her in our prayers. Sure Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So next, Jai Ganesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat Pranam all goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Machita matgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kadayanta cha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Translation on goes to Srila Prabhupada. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Mataji, they are not available. Maybe they will go last.
Sure. Isha.
Machitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayanta mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
Yeah. Krishna Ashish.
Machitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mamka nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
Madhava.
Matsitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantastama nityam dusyanti saramanti sa. The thought of my pure devotee dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
Rasapriya.
Matsitta Vargata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Kathayanta Sama Nityam Tasyanti Charamanti Cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
So everyone has recited. We'll go to Srimad Bhagavatam then. Yeah. Okay. So, or we can discuss this verse a little bit. Yeah. In case some other participants join in the meanwhile. So the previous verse was Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Mattah Sarvam Pravartate Iti Matva Bhajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvita. So there we saw Krishna is saying, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavaha. So we understood the word Prabhava. Mattah Sarvam Pravartate. Everything is coming from me. Everything means what? Everything means whatever you see in this world and whatever practices one may adopt and whatever destinations one get as a result of that practice, they're all coming from the Lord only. How? For example, if you look at the practices, what are the different practices, sadhanas that people adopt? Karma is one practice. They do karma. And what is the destination? What does one want to get as a result of doing karma? Karma means karma kanda. They want to go to Swarga. So there is sadhana and sadhya. Sadhana is karma and the sadhya is Swarga. Similarly, there is jnana. Jnana is a sadhana, and by doing jnana, what is the sadhya? What is the destination that one wants? Either they go to Vaikuntha or they go in and merge into Brahman, one of the two. Then you have tapa, tapasya. So by doing tapasya, where do they go? Janaloka, tapoloka, like that. Then you also have bhakti. By doing bhakti, where do you go? Ananya bhakti, if you do, then you go to Golok Vrindavan Dham. So these practices, karma, tapa, jnana, bhakti, and even yoga, where are all these practices coming from? If you study scrutinizingly, you will see these practices are also coming from the Lord. How? Either they are coming from the avatars of the Lord or from the vibhutis of the Lord. For example, if you take bhakti, how did we get bhakti? Who is the person who is giving us bhakti? Narad Muni. Narada Pancharatra is talking about Bhakti Sutras, how to practice bhakti. And who is Narad Muni? Narad Muni is Shaktiavesh avatar of the Supreme Lord. Okay. Then if you say Jnana, this sadhana or Jnana, who is giving us how to practice this Jnana? Chatushkumaras. Who are Chatushkumaras? If you remember the third chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that gives a list of the different incarnations. There we see the Kumaras are also avatars of the Supreme Lord. Shaktiavesh avatars. So again, Shaktiavesh avatar means what? This is also the Lord's power. So avatar means greater percentage of the Lord's potency. Vibhuti means a small percentage. That's all. So the Kumaras give us jnana. Tapa, who gives us tapa? That's given by the rishis. Who are the rishis? The rishis are also vibhutis of the Lord. They have that power, empowerment from the Lord, vibhutis of the Lord. Karma, who gave us karma, practices of karma? Someone who practices himself and then he teaches. Daksha Prajapati, he gives the karma kanda. So, and then who are all of them? They are all these personalities are vibhutis of the Lord or avatars of the Lord. So in that way we see whatever you see in this world, everything is emanating from the Supreme Lord. That means, and this material world, where is this material world coming from? It's coming from Paramatma. Karanodakashai Vishnu is Paramatma for the entire creation. Then you have Garbhodakashai Vishnu, is Paramatma for this universe. And you have Kshirodakashai Vishnu, is Paramatma for each and every living entity, each and every atom. So this material creation is coming from Paramatma. Who is this Paramatma? He is Amsha of the Supreme Bhagavan. So when Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Mattah Sarvam Pravartate, everything is coming from the Lord. Whatever you see, whatever you know in this world, everything is coming from the Lord. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. So, who knows this fact? That is the point here. Who knows that everything is coming from the Lord? Who believes in this? We hear it, but to what extent do we completely believe it? We may say with our lips, yes, 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 I believe it. But when we believe, then our actions will be different. Who believes it? That's the question. One who gets the mercy of the Lord can believe this. Who gets the mercy of the Lord? One who does Ananya Bhakti receives the mercy of the Lord. One who does Ananya Bhakti receives the mercy of the Lord, and when one receives the mercy of the Lord, then he will get faith in the words of the Lord. When the Lord says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate, we will believe his words when we receive his mercy. And when we believe his words, then we accept his vibhutis. We will understand his vibhutis. Yes, he is actually the source of everything. That same point, which has been discussed in text 8, is being repeated again in text 9, which we learned today. Macchitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So, this belief in the words of the Lord, or the words of the Lord, let's say Bhagavad Gita. Is Bhagavad Gita Shastra? Yes. So the Lord speaks, he doesn't speak anything which is different from the conclusion of the Shastra. Whatever is said in the Shastra, the Lord says the same thing. He doesn't say something different. And when one gets full faith in the conclusion of Shastra, then he is eligible to do Ananya Bhakti. So now we get a question here which we will not discuss today. We will discuss it tomorrow, but I'm just giving you a hint today. For someone to begin Ananya Bhakti, he needs Shraddha. Shraddha. Initially you need Shraddha. That's when you are able to begin Ananya Bhakti. And then when you do Ananya Bhakti, you receive mercy of the Lord, and after receiving mercy of the Lord, you will believe in his words. And when you believe in his words, then you will accept his vibhutis. So what is the difference between that Shraddha, initial Shraddha, that one gets, because of which he is able to do Ananya Bhakti, and this belief in the words of the Lord? If you get Shraddha, you do Ananya Bhakti. So if that Shraddha is as good as believing in the words of the Lord, anyone who gets Shraddha in the beginning, is he also getting belief in the words of the Lord? Is he also receiving the mercy of the Lord there? Or is there a difference? That we'll discuss tomorrow. So now, I didn't see anyone else join. If anyone has joined, let me know to recite the verse. If not, we'll begin with Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4. What is this chapter? This is about the glories of Ambarish Maharaj. So, we read Ambarish Maharaj. He is from a glorious dynasty. So, Vaivasvata Manu, Shraddha Deva, had 10 sons. One of those sons is King Nabhaga. King Nabhaga's son is King Nabhaga. King Nabhaga was such a great devotee that Lord Shiva himself personally gave transcendental knowledge to King Nabhaga, and how he was so obedient to his father. So anyone who hears the story of Nabhaga, he is able to get, so there is some spiritual benefit, right? I think you become free from your sinful reactions, and you can, you can also get self-realization like that. If you simply hear attentively, faithfully, the glories of King Nabhaga. Such King Nabhaga's son is Ambarish Maharaj. And about Ambarish Maharaj, we read that he became the emperor of the entire, of all the 7 islands of this Bhumandala. But in spite of that, he considered all these opulences which he had, the power that he had, to be temporary, and he didn't give any importance to it. Rather, his focus was on serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead with all his senses, serving the master of the senses with one's senses. That was his focus. So with his eyes, he would take darshan of the Lord. With his legs, he would move to the temple or to the places of pilgrimage. With his hands, he would clean the temple of the Lord, and he would touch, with his sense of touch, he would touch the bodies of the Lord. With his nose, he would smell the the flowers which are offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. With his tongue, he would taste tulsi which is offered to the Lord, or taste Krishna Prasadam. With his ears, he would always hear the glories of the Supreme Lord, Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, he would hear. And with his tongue, he would also vibrate the glories of the Lord. And his mind was always absorbed in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. And his desires were completely dovetailed with satisfying the Supreme Lord, serving the Supreme Lord. In this way, he engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. Then we also read that, like this, he was a pure devotee, but he also carried out his duties as a king under the able guidance of Vaishnava Brahmanas, like Vashishta Muni. And we also read that he did many yagyas as a king, like Ashwamedha Yagya. And he was very nicely grooming his citizens into pure devotees. And as a result, whatever benefits would come as a result of these yagyas or their karma, pious activities or bhakti also, they had no interest whatsoever, no attraction whatsoever in going to the heavenly planets or any type of curiosity or inquisitiveness to see what is there in the heavenly planets. Why? Because they were accustomed. Rasapriya, why you're not sitting here? Why you're going all over the place? So anyone who is accustomed to always hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord, he will naturally lose any taste for material opulences. And also, we read that engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord is the way to mitigate all material miseries. Who does not want to mitigate material miseries? But how to do it? Engage your senses in the service of the master of the senses. That is the way. What else did we read about Ambarish Maharaj? That he was also performing many austerities for the pleasure of the Lord. And by this, he was able to purify his material existence. Give it here. So then Srila Prabhupada explained, even when we are rendering devotional service, there are austerities involved. For example, if you're doing deity worship calls for austerities. You have to be there on time. You have to maintain cleanliness. Whatever position we may be in, The position of a devotee is he's always a servant. He is not the enjoyer. You may be a king, you may be an emperor, you may be a president, you may be the head pujari, or you may be, the leader of a, big group of devotees. You may be a guru, but the position of a devotee is he's always a servant, and he serves in that mode. So therefore, there is austerity involved. When you're a servant, you're supposed to serve, right? You do any type of service that is required there for the pleasure of the master. So Prabhupada gave the example of a pujari, deity worship. How, there is austerity involved in deity worship, in collecting the best ingredients, best items to decorate the Lord, flowers, to dress the Lord, to bathe the Lord, to cook for the Lord, to make offerings, to keep the place clean. All this requires austerity. Similarly, Prabhupada said in book distribution, preaching activities, there is austerity involved. So like this. So when we hear that Ambarish Maharaj performed severe austerities, then what type of austerities was he doing? His austerities were in the service of the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada also quoted Rishabdev, who said, Tapo Divyam Putraka. This human form of life is meant for austerity. Why? Why is austerity necessary? This is a question. Tell me. What happens when you perform austerities like this in devotional service? Anyone remembers? What happens when you perform austerities in devotional service? Anyone remembers? Nobody remembers? When you perform austerities, you become purified. Your heart becomes purified. Purified of what? Right now, we are in a contaminated state. What is that contaminated state? Our natural constitutional position is to serve the Supreme Lord, to be a servant of the Supreme Lord. But now in the contaminated state, artificially, we are trying to be the master, trying to be the enjoyer. So when you perform austerities, you become purified of this contamination. And in a purified heart, or with a purified heart, when you render devotional service, so after this austerity, now when you're rendering devotional service, what happens is your material contamination is removed. That's what it is. That means you come closer to your constitutional position. So bhakti and austerity, again, we are not talking about self-made austerities, different types of fasts that we invent ourselves. That's not called for here. We are talking about austerities in the course of rendering devotional service. Austerities which are recommended in the scriptures by the acharyas. Austerities like even fasting on Ekadasis. Now Janmashtami is coming. Staying up until midnight, that is an austerity. Fasting all day, that is an austerity. And simply fasting and staying up, not just that, being engaged in devotional service to the Lord. So this type of austerity is required. What happens when you do this type of austerity? Your heart becomes purified. You come closer to your constitutional position. That's what he said. About Ambarish Maharaj's austerities, then Srila Prabhupada explained that. And then let's see what happened after that. That's 27. Maharaj Ambarish gave up, one more point. He gave up all attachment to his wife, to his children, to his horses, to his elephants, chariots, ornaments, garments. He's a king, he's an emperor. He had a treasury, he had jewels, he had ornaments. He gave up all attachment to all these things. But he gave up everything as temporary and material. He gave up means what? He rejected? He didn't use them? No. Srila Prabhupada says, anasaktasya vishayan yatharham upayunjatah. So, anasaktasya vishayan, anasakti, without any asakti for personal enjoyment, he engaged whatever he had in the service of the Lord. And that is good. Instead of rejecting these things as material, as obstacles on the path of devotional service, so it's easy to reject the things themselves, like the Gyanis do, reject the things, right? That's actually easier than to reject attachment. That takes longer, actually. Generally, we say out of sight, out of mind, isn't it? So you want something out of your mind, take it out of your sight. That's good. Nothing wrong with that. But just because it is out of sight and temporarily it may seem like it is out of mind also, can you be confident that it is actually permanently gone? No. The attachment will be there somewhere. When can you actually overcome that attachment? That's possible by bhakti. That's possible by bhakti. Srila Prabhupada says that also in that purport. When you perform bhakti nicely, properly, in spite of having all these things, being surrounded by all these things, you will not have any attachment to them. And you'll be able to use all of that in the service of the Lord without being personally attached. That is actual advancement. And that type of advancement comes only with bhakti. Otherwise, physically, mechanically, trying to overcome that attachment by making the heart hard like a stone, by various severe penances, that's a very risky position. Because at any moment, right? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that even one of the roaming senses can cause the fall down. Because if the mind is roaming, and even when it contemplates on one of the senses or one of the sense objects, it causes fall down. So all those years of practice and everything, with one small, we have examples. Vishwamitra Muni was performing severe tapasya. He just heard the tinkling of the ankle bells of Menaka, and all the tapasya was gone. Right? He fell for lust. And another time, he conquered lust, but he fell for anger. But in bhakti, all you do is you render devotional service to the Supreme Lord. You see who is the master. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. Bhoktaram. He is the bhokta. He is the enjoyer. And with this consciousness, a devotee is always molding his consciousness and his life, his activities in such a way that with the understanding who is the actual enjoyer and what is my position. My position is to be enjoyed by the Supreme. And he is constantly engaged in devotional service to the Lord with this type of consciousness. Then his position is very stable and safe. There's no possibility of his falling down all of a sudden. In an immature stage, yes, there may be some fall downs. One who is not mature yet, who is a neophyte in the initial stages. But someone who practices devotional service like this, he will not fall down for these things because he has understood, he has realized his position as a servant, not the enjoyer. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave purport to that verse, text 27, saying that Ambarish Maharaj rejected everything, but he was using everything in Krishna's service. He was not attached, and that is what is required. Next, text 28. Who's supposed to read today? Forgetting. I should have written. Well, we started off with Achyutpriya Mataji last time, and Achintadev Prabhu, Arunita Aditilata Mataji. You all read, right? I think so. So we'll
I
begin.
think we read Mataji. I think.
Yeah. So we'll start with Inba, Inia.
Yes, Mataji.
Tasma adadharishchakram pratyanika bhayavaham ekanta bhakti bhavena prito bhaktabhirakshanam. That's making me distracted.
Being very pleased by the unalloyed devotion of Maharaj Ambarisha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave the king his disc, which is faithful to enemies and which always protects the devotee from enemies and adversity.
Yes. So whenever we talk about Ambarish Maharaj, how can we not talk about the famous incident about how the Sudarshan Chakra protected Ambarish Maharaj? So in all these verses we discussed what is the consciousness of Ambarish Maharaj, what is the quality of his devotional service, like that. So being very pleased by this type of unalloyed devotional service of Ambarish Maharaj, that means Ananya Bhakti, performed by Ambarish Maharaj, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave the king his personal weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra, which is fearful to enemies and which always protects the devotee from enemies and adversities. So the Sudarshan Chakra to the enemy is unbearable, intolerable. Can you give an example where the Sudarshan Chakra attacked an enemy of Krishna and the person was fearful? Shishupal, correct, Shishupal. And that was somebody who was directly envious of Krishna. And here we will see someone who is envious of Krishna's devotee, how the Sudarshan Chakra protects the devotee. So the Sudarshan Chakra is very, very fearsome to the enemies of the Lord and the devotees. But for the devotees, the Sudarshan Chakra, when the devotees see Sudarshan Chakra, then they feel shelter, they feel protection. They don't get scared when they see Sudarshan Chakra. The enemies of the devotees will feel scared when they see Sudarshan Chakra. So the Lord, being very pleased with Ambarish Maharaj's bhakti, gave his Sudarshan Chakra. Okay? Purport. So Inia.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
A devotee, being always engaged in the service of the Lord, may not be expert in self-defense, but because a devotee fully depends on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is always sure of protection by the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj said, Naivo dvije para duratyaya vairtaranyas tadvirya gayana mahamritam magna chittaha. Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, verse 43.
Okay, Prabhuji will read?
No, Mataji.
No. Mataji is also not there?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. But Prabhuji is here actually. He's in.
Hi, Mataji.
Jai Ganesh Prabhu. I think Prabhuji left.
Yeah, I'm with Iniya Mataji.
You're there. Okay, go ahead, Prabhuji.
A devotee is always merged in the ocean of the transcendental bliss of rendering service to the Lord. Therefore, he is not at all afraid of any adverse situation in the material world. The Lord also promises, Kaunteya pratijanihi namai bhakti pranashati. O Arjuna, you may declare to the world that the devotees of the Lord are never vanquished.
We are unable to hear you, Prabhuji.
Bhagavad Gita 9.31. For the protection of the devotees, Krishna's disc, the Sudarshana Chakra, is always ready. This disc is extremely fearful to the non-devotees. Pratyanika Bhayavaham. Therefore, although Maharaj Amrisha was fully engaged in devotion service, his kingdom was free of all fear of adversity.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. So, one important point is a devotee is engaged. Of course, we are talking about pure devotees here. Huh? A pure devotee, you can take so many examples. Take Prahlad Maharaj, for example. He is so absorbed in his bhakti, he doesn't even care for his own body. He doesn't care that I have to eat, I have to give proper rest to this body, otherwise this body won't, I won't be able to sustain, or I have to do some work so that I can earn some livelihood, so that I can protect this body, maintain this body. He is completely dependent on the Lord. And he is 24/7 at every moment absorbed in serving the Lord. He doesn't think about himself. Where will I get my maintenance? Where will, or there is some danger from somewhere. I have to protect myself. I have to arrange for security. There's no room for any other thought in his mind. This is a pure devotee. 24/7 he's thinking about the Lord's service, the Lord's mission, how to push his mission forward, how to serve the Supreme Lord, how to please the Supreme Lord. This is the meditation of a pure devotee. As we see in Srila Prabhupada's case, we are reading Leelamrita. Constant meditation. He's not thinking about, oh, I'm so, old, what will happen. Others are thinking, you'll go to America, it's such a cold place, you'll go by ship, and you will die there. At this age, people are not so friendly, in the sense, they don't understand who is a Vaishnava, who's a sadhu, how to respect them, how to take care of them. They don't have this culture, they don't know this. Others were able to, but Srila Prabhupada was not thinking about all that. How am I going to protect myself? How am I going to maintain myself? His only meditation was, I have to get these Bhagavatams out. This is my Guru Maharaj's order. This is the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is Krishna's mission. That was his meditation constantly. This is a pure devotee's meditation. And to such a pure devotee who doesn't even think about himself, the Lord is always there to protect. And his Sudarshan Chakra is also there. So Ambarish Maharaj was a pure devotee, 24/7, engaging all his senses in the service of the Lord. Still, his kingdom was very nicely taken care of. The citizens were all protected. They didn't experience any fear from thieves or from enemies, because the king is always absorbed in pure devotional service. Then who is protecting the kingdom? You may question. The Sudarshan Chakra is always there. Not just physical enemies, all types of difficulties, diseases, poverty, and enemies, snakes. So many problems can come, but they were fearless. No fear in the citizens. Because when one becomes a pure devotee, where does Krishna say that? Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. Isn't it? Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam. Continuously he is engaged. In what? Ananya. Ananya means no other desire. There's only one desire to please Krishna. And one who's continuously engaged like this 24/7. Tesham, to such people, Nityabhiyuktanam, Yoga Kshemam Vahami Aham. I personally carry whatever they need and I preserve whatever they have. This is Krishna's promise. So, in the case of Ambarish Maharaj, he has given his Sudarshan Chakra to Ambarish Maharaj to protect. So here Srila Prabhupada is saying, quoting Prahlad Maharaj is saying, Naivo dvije paraduratyaya vaitaranyas tvad-virya gayana mahamrita magna chittaha. A devotee is always merged in the ocean of the transcendental bliss of rendering service to the Lord. Therefore, he is not at all afraid of any adverse situation in the material world. He is not fearful, he is not concerned, he is not worried. Where will I get my next meal? He is not worried at all. And to such a devotee, the Lord also promises, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktah pranashyati. Krishna is telling Arjun, you declare, because when a devotee declares something, Krishna will never let his devotee's word become false. His own word can become false, but his devotee's word, he'll never make it false. He will do everything to protect the statement of his devotee. Therefore, Krishna is telling Arjun, you declare that my devotee will never be vanquished. So this is Krishna's promise. He protects his devotee. So like this, so the Krishna Sudarshan Chakra was always ready to protect Ambarish Maharaj and all those who are dependent on Ambarish Maharaj, all his subjects. So this disc was extremely fearful to the enemies. Nobody would dare look at Ambarish Maharaj or his kingdom. Pratyanika bhayavaham, very, very fearful. That's why the citizens of Ambarish Maharaj were free from all fear and from all adversity. Ariradhya Ariradhayishu Krishnam Mahishya Tulya Shilaya Yuktaha Samvatsaram Viro Dadhara Dvadashi Vratam. Okay. So, Isha. Jayashree Mataji is not there, right?
Yes, Mataji.
Not there. Okay, Isha.
To worship Lord Krishna, Maharaj Ambarish, along with his queen, who was equally qualified, observed the vow of Ekadasi and Dwadasi for 1 year.
Okay, so they were observing this vow of Ekadasi and Dwadasi for 1 year. So let's just read the purport to understand exactly what type of vow Ambarish Maharaj was observing. But another point here is Ambarish Maharaj's wife was also equally qualified. If his subjects are all becoming pure devotees, she is with him day and night. Certainly she is also influenced by his pure devotional service. So she would assist him in whatever devotional service he is doing, she is assisting him. Therefore, it is that she is also equally qualified. She is also engaged in pure devotional service. Together they were observing this vrata of Ekadasi and Dwadasi for 1 year. Purport. Krishna Shish.
To observe Ekadasi Vrata and Dvadasi Vrata means to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those interested in advancing in Krishna consciousness must observe Ekadasi Vrata regularly. Maharaj Ambarish's queen was equally qualified as the king. Therefore, it was possible for Maharaj Ambarish to engage his life in household affairs. In this regard, In this regard, the word tulya shilaya is very significant. Unless a wife is equally as qualified as her husband, household affairs are very difficult to continue. Chanakya Pandit advises that a person in such a situation should immediately give up household life and become a vanaprastha or sannyasi.
Okay, Madhava. Mata yasya grihe nasti bharya cha priyavadini aranyam tena gantavyam yatharanyam tatha griham.
A person who has no one mother at home and whose wife is not agreeable with him should immediately go away to the forest, because human life is meant for spiritual branches only. When wife is ill also in this endeavor, arrive the authority of household life.
Yes. So, about the vrata, it is said that Ambarish Maharaj was observing Ekadasi vrata and Dwadasi vrata for 1 year. So every Ekadasi he would fast and he would break on Dwadasi, right? I mean, we should not speculate here, but actually there's no question of speculation. He was doing Nirjala Ekadasi, full fast, actually. So on Dwadasi, you break. Even if you drink a few drops of water, you break your fast. If you have not taken any water on Ekadasi, then you drink a few drops of water, then that's also breaking your Ekadasi. And if you have been drinking water, then you eat something. If you've been only drinking water, then if you eat something, some solid food, that breaks your Ekadasi. And if you've been eating also Ekadasi prasadam, then when you eat grains and beans, that breaks your Ekadasi, like that. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So, Achyut Priya Mataji's mother-in-law, her breathing had increased. So, looks like her breathing has stopped just now. So, all of you please keep Mataji's mother-in-law in your prayers. Yeah, she's saying they need to confirm, but yeah, she's going through her, final stages. So please keep her in your prayers. And we chanted japa in the morning also. And when we chant again tomorrow, we will continue. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna. So please keep Mataji in your prayers, and we'll continue to chant. We'll just complete the session here. We'll read Bhagavad Gita and Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita. Chanting Hare Krishna is also chanting, and reading and reciting and discussing Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. This is also Kirtan. So that is also beneficial. Okay, so let me just finish this purport. So here Srila Prabhupada said to observe Ekadasi Vrata and Dwadasi Vrata. So what is the significance of observing Ekadasi and Dwadasi? Why do we observe Ekadasi and Dwadasi? Devotees observe Ekadasi and Dwadasi for only one purpose, because it is pleasing to the Supreme Lord. So Ambarish Maharaj and his queen were observing Ekadasi and Dwadasi Vrata to please the Supreme Lord. And anyone who wants to advance in Krishna consciousness, he must regularly observe Ekadasi Vrata. Ekadasi is an integral part of the Krishna consciousness movement. We must observe Ekadasi. It's not an option. That's one point. The other point Srila Prabhupada says in the purport is, Ambarish Maharaj's queen was cooperative. She was assisting her husband in devotional service. Therefore, staying in household life was not an obstacle for his bhakti. Sometimes, if the wife is not cooperating with the husband, then in such a case, there's no point in staying in household life. Of course, in the initial stages of when someone takes to Krishna consciousness, in the initial days, one is very enthusiastic, and in their enthusiasm, they may be insensitive to their spouse. So that's different. But over a period of time, by the sincere endeavor, prayers of the spouse, of the devotee, his or her spouse may also take to Krishna consciousness. So that takes maturity and proper guidance, and that can be done. But in certain cases, the spouse is outright against Krishna consciousness, especially the wife is not at all cooperative. Srila Prabhupada, of course, there's no question of divorce. That's out of question. The only option that in the Vedic society, the only option a man has is to take sannyas. Just leave home and take sannyas. Not that give up one spouse and then accept another one. That's not what is being said here. So, family life means it's not Grihastha does not mean just having a house. If you have your own house, it doesn't mean you're a grihastha. Grihastha means grihini. You have a wife. And when you have a wife, you will have children also. You have to have children also. That is a grihastha who has a house, who has a wife, and who has children. That is a grihastha. So, Chanakya Pandit is saying here that that person who has no mother at home. Why? Mother? Because mother is always very affectionate to the son. She's always concerned about whether my son has eaten or not. She's not so concerned about whether my son has brought any money home today or not. She's concerned about whether my son has eaten properly or not. So if a man has no mother at home, that means there's nobody to care for him, right? Whether he's doing well or not. So if there is no mother at home, or if the wife is disagreeable, that means she does not agree with anything he does, especially if he's on the path of bhakti and the wife is against that and she's always fighting with him because he's practicing devotional service, and such a man has nothing to get from such a household. There is no mother and there's no wife. The only happiness that a man can expect in a household is when he has a mother who cares for him and a wife who is agreeable. Then he can have some peace. But if he does not have this, then there's no meaning to his staying in the household. This is Chanakya Pandit's wisdom. Mata yasya grihe nasti bharya chapriya vadini. Right? Vadini, she's always arguing with him. Apriya vadini, right? Always speaking harsh words. Aranyam tena gantavyam yatharanyam tathagriham. He should leave home and go to the forest. It doesn't say leave your wife and get another wife. No, it is saying leave home, leave the grihastha ashram for good, go to the forest. Why? Because your house is as good as the forest now. Even if you are in the house, it is as good as living in the forest only. A person who has no mother at home and whose wife is not agreeable with him should immediately go away to forest, because human life is meant for spiritual advancement only. One's wife must be helpful in this endeavor, otherwise there is no need of household life. In the case of Ambarish Maharaj, his wife was cooperative. So therefore for him, whether he is at home or whether he's in the temple, it's the same thing, because his wife is completely agreeable and she is assisting him in his devotional service. It's as good as living in a temple. So that is actually a win-win situation. If both husband and wife are on the path of devotional service, that's a win-win. Okay, next verse. Pratante kartike masi triratram samuposhitaha snataha kadachit kalindyam harim madhuvanerchayat. Madhava read, right? Rasapriya.
In the month of Kartik, after observing that vow for 1 year, after observing a fast for 3 nights, and after bathing the Yamuna, Maharaj Ambarish worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, in Madhuvan.
So he was observing this vow for 1 year. After observing a fast for so after 1 year was completed, he observed fast for 3 nights. 3 nights. So the night before Ekadasi, also it's a fast. And then the night after Ekadasi is also a fast. So maybe he did it one night before that also. So there is Dashami, the night of Dashami. So from Navami only, apparently. So Navami, Dashami and Ekadasi. 3 nights he observed fast. And then after 3 nights of fast, He bathed in the Yamuna, worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari. In Madhuvan, Vrindavan, there are 12 forests. One of them is Madhuvan. Madhuvan is also the place where Dhruva Maharaj performed his tapasya. So in Madhuvan, Ambarish Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also in a previous verse we read, Ambarish Maharaj was meditating on whom? On Lord Vasudev, it is said. On Lord Vasudev and on the devotees of Lord Vasudev. So there in Madhuvan, he is worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead after bathing in the river Yamuna. After observing fast for 3 nights, he bathed in the river Yamuna and now he is worshipping Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the rest we will read tomorrow. So we finished with Rasa Priya. We'll begin with Sonia Mataji tomorrow. Let's read from Bhagavad Gita.
Mataji,
Yes, Mataji.
that Sudarshan Chakra. So I'm just trying to analyze. So Sudarshan Chakra had was protecting Bali Maharaj's kingdom and Amrish Maharaj's kingdom. Those two.
Yes, yes. Bali Maharaj's kingdom after Vamandev in Sutala planet.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Sudarshan Chakra is protecting all the devotees of the Lord.
Yeah, devotees, but the kingdom I'm saying.
Specifically, yeah. Yes, Mataji.
Mm.
Thank you. Okay, so please repeat Bhagavad Gita verse 1873. Arjuna Uvacha Nashto Moha Smritirlabdha Nashto Moha Smritirlabdha Tvat Prasadan Mayachyuta Stitosmi Gatas Sandeha Stitosmi Gata Sandeha Karishye Vachanam Tava. Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and am prepared to act according to your instructions. So let us see what Krishna said, in response to which Arjuna is saying this. Krishna said, O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? You remember? And then there Srila Prabhupada said that if Arjun didn't understand any part of Bhagavad Gita, or for that matter, if he wanted Krishna to repeat the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was ready to repeat the whole thing again. And that is the qualification of a good teacher, it is said there. So, in response to Krishna's question, Krishna said, is your ignorance, are your doubts dispelled? Is your ignorance gone? Now Arjun is saying, oh my dear Krishna, oh infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now free. I am now firm. That means I am determined and I am free from doubt. Right? Now I don't have, should I fight or should I not fight? Maybe this is right or this is, no. I'm very clear about my duty now. I'm free from doubt and I'm prepared to act according to your instructions. Whatever you ask me to do, I'm prepared. Purport. The constitutional position of a living entity represented by Arjun. So Arjun is representing the living entities, all of us. He's representing all of us. The constitutional position of a living entity represented by Arjun is that he has to act according to the order of the Supreme Lord. He is meant for self-discipline. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the actual position of the living entity is that of eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. Jivera Swarupa hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that. The actual position of the living entity is that of eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. Forgetting this principle, the living entity becomes conditioned by material nature. So when we forget that I am a servant of the Supreme Lord, what happens? We are covered by ignorance, avidya. What is that avidya? I forget that I am this body, that I forget that I am a spirit soul even. Right? I forget. And then by Maya's covering, I get this material body, subtle body, gross body. And when I get this body, I have forgotten that I'm a spirit soul. Then I think I am this body. Why all this is happening? Because of forgetting my position as a servant of the Supreme Lord. Forgetting this principle, the living entity becomes conditioned by material nature. Then how to reverse this situation? But in serving the Supreme Lord, he becomes the liberated servant of God. So by forgetting that I am a servant, now I am covered by Maya, and being covered by Maya, I am thinking I am this body. I forget that I am a spirit soul and I am thinking I am this body. When I think that I am this body, I enter into dualities. That means I experience fear, hatred, attachment, aversion. Dualities. I enter into dualities. And because of entering into dualities, now I experience fear. We are living in constant fear. And all this started with forgetting my position as a servant of the Supreme Lord. When we engage in devotional service to the Supreme Lord, once again we will be free from fear, free from this avidya, that I am this material body. All this happens by engaging in devotional service. So, but in serving the Supreme Lord, he becomes the liberated servant of God. He is liberated from material energy. Maya is not covering him anymore when he is serving the Supreme Lord. The living entity's constitutional position is to be a servitor. He has to serve either the illusory Maya or the Supreme Lord. If he serves the Supreme Lord, he is in his normal condition. But if he prefers to serve the illusory external energy, then certainly he will be in bondage. Yes. So what happens? You have to serve nevertheless. It's not, at no point are you going to become a master. Maya will create the illusion and make you think that you are the master, but you are never the master. When you are imagining to be the master, actually you are a slave of Maya. You are a servant of Maya. So when we refuse to serve the Supreme Lord, which is our natural position, then we are forced to serve Maya. We cannot not serve. We have to serve under all circumstances. So if we refuse to serve Krishna, rest assured you are serving Maya. So if he serves the Supreme Lord, he is in his normal condition. But if he prefers to serve the illusory external energy, then certainly he will be in bondage. Bondage means what? Your material existence will continue. In illusion, the living entity is serving this material world. He is bound by his lust and desires, yet he thinks of himself as the master of the world. This is called illusion. When a person is liberated, his illusion is over. How are you liberated? By serving the Supreme Lord. When you come back to the consciousness that you are a servant of the Supreme Lord, that is your liberated condition. Maya has no jurisdiction on you when you are serving the Supreme Lord. When a person is liberated, that means when he's serving the Supreme Lord, his illusion is over and he voluntarily surrenders unto the Supreme to act according to his desires, which Arjun is doing here. What did Arjun say? My illusion is over, my memory is recovered, now I am ready to act according to your instruction. That is a sign that you're liberated. When you become ready to act, that means surrender to Krishna. Now I'm ready to act according to the desire of Krishna. No more ifs and buts. The last illusion, the last snare of Maya to trap the living entity is the proposition that he is God. Yes, right? You are God. I am God. We are all God. This is also Maya's doing only. The last snare of Maya is to propose to you that you are God. The living entity thinks that he is no longer a conditioned soul, but God. He is so unintelligent that he does not think that if he were God, then how could he be in doubt? That he does not consider. Right? If you are God, why are you in doubt in the first place? Take Arjun for example. Why is he in doubt? Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammudha cheta yachreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapanam. Arjun is saying, I am bewildered. I am not able to decide what is right for me. If you are God, how can you be bewildered? How can you be in doubt if you're God? But he's so unintelligent, a living entity who's thinking he's God, he's so unintelligent that he does not get this question. The living entity thinks that he is no longer a conditioned soul but God. He is so unintelligent that he does not think that if he were God, then how could he be in doubt? That he does not consider. So that is the last snare of illusion. Actually, to become free from the illusory energy is to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and agree to act according to his order. The rest of the purport we will continue tomorrow. I don't want to rush through it, and I know it's already time. Let's read Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. So, Srila Prabhupada is already, in Calcutta. So he's going to, from Bombay, he went to Calcutta, and he's going to board the Jaladuta in Calcutta. Okay. Mr. Bhattacharya immediately began to arrange a few private meetings at friends' homes where he would sing and Bhaktivedanta Swami would then speak. Okay. Sisir Bhattacharya. Okay. Who is this Sisir Bhattacharya? Remember? He's just an acquaintance. He was a kirtan singer in Calcutta that Srila Prabhupada knew. Remember, Calcutta is the place where Prabhupada was born. He grew up. He spent most of his life there. But now he didn't call any family members, no friends, family. But he called some person that he just met once. And he chose to call Mr. Sisir Bhattacharya a flamboyant kirtan singer he had met a year before at the governor's house in Lucknow. He was not a relative, not a disciple, not even a close friend, but he was willing to help. So what did this Mr. Bhattacharya do? He arranged for a few private meetings at friends' homes, like a home program, where Srila Prabhupada would speak and this Bhattacharya would sing. Mr. Bhattacharya thought the sadhus leaving for America should make an important news story. He accompanied Bhaktivedanta Swami to all the newspapers in Calcutta, the Hindustan Standard, the Amrita Bazar Patrika, the Jugantas, the Statesman, and others. Bhaktivedanta Swami had only one photograph, a passport photo which we see, and they made a few copies for the newspapers. Mr. Bhattacharya would try to explain what the Swami was going to do, and the news writers would listen, but none of them wrote anything. Finally, they visited the Dainik Basumati, a local Bengali daily, which agreed to print a small article with Bhaktivedanta Swami's picture. A week before his departure, on August 6th, Bhaktivedanta Swami traveled to nearby Mayapur to visit the Samadhi of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Then he returned to Calcutta, where Mr. Bhattacharya continued to assist him with his final business and speaking engagements. So, Mayapur is about 4 hours road drive from Calcutta. So, Srila Prabhupada, just 1 week before departing for America from Calcutta, he came to Mayapur to take darshan to visit his spiritual master's Samadhi, Chaitanya Math. Mr. Bhattacharya, we just took a hired taxi to this place and that place, and he would go for preaching. I never talked to him during the preaching, but once when I was coming back from the preaching, I said, "You said this thing about this, but I tell you it is not this, it is this." I crossed him in something or argued, and he was furious. Whenever we argued and I said, "No, I think this is this," then he was shouting. He was very furious. He said, "You are always saying, I think, I think, I think. What is the importance of what you think? Everything is what you think, but it doesn't matter. It matters what Shastra says. You must follow." I said, "I must do what I think, what I feel. That is important." He said, "No, you should forget this. You should forget your desire. You should change your habit. Better you depend on Shastras. You follow what Shastra wants you to do and do it. I am not telling you what I think, but I am repeating what the Shastra says." Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for joining today. All of you have a wonderful day in Krishna consciousness. I will see you again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
And all of you, please keep Achut Priya Mataji's mother-in-law in your prayers. And again, tomorrow morning we will chant Japa. So please join. We will all chant together. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.